is Kristy Chatelain. I began photographing Greenpoint in Williamsburg shortly after I moved here in 2006. I was fascinated to learn about the history in Greenpoint, about history of manufacturing in the area, about the Domino's sugar factory. There's a lot of history in this area. I definitely look for any sort of historical remnant or connection to the past when I'm photographing. First started to see a lot of vacant buildings for sale, and then being under construction and changing to specifically condo buildings. A lot of new restaurants popping up. The very first condo building in Williamsburg that I photographed was this building that started to be built prior to the rezoning in 2005. It went up between Berry and Bedford Avenue on North 8th, and it was the only high-rise building like that in the area at the time. And it was definitely the first sign of what was to come in the area. By going back again and again, I got to see what happened over time and be surprised by what happened, and even saddened by seeing these industrial buildings that I would argue that most people probably wouldn't care about, but seeing them go from being thriving businesses to then being nothing, to just seeing then simply nothing there, and then eventually turned into a residential or mixed-use building, and feeling kind of a loss at something that was kind of unique and interesting being changed. This is the site of a former low-rise industrial building on India Street, where the ferry landing is in Greenpoint. It is now going to be, it looks like it is a residential building. I remember the walls of the building were full of murals when you get off the ferry. There is a sadness to that. It is a sense of death in a way of a life and a use of the land here. Seeing the transformation of the neighborhood visually and continue to see sort of the breaking apart of a community. I mean, they tear it down and then it just sits like for 2 years. It is sad because people have lost their jobs. They've had to move on. The transformation is attracting a much higher price point in terms of the real estate market. And we saw on our own street the buildings being renovated, designed to attract a much more luxury buyer. A lot of people that I knew have left the neighborhood due to the rising rents. There are a lot of people that just simply couldn't afford to live here anymore. We were also in that category. The rents just continued to rise, and at some point you just can't afford to stay in the area as much as you like it. So that's why we ended up moving to Bay Ridge, where we found the rents to be more affordable. When you're used to seeing an area one way, then all of a sudden you go back a couple of months or years later and you see it with very different eyes. You sort of see these buildings as being permanent structures. They're there, they occupy this space, and then over time they can change. And it's just fascinating to witness that process.